Years ago, I was so honored when President Ronald Reagan appointed me to become a member of the National Council on Disability. And one of the very first initiatives we worked on was a draft of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Oh my goodness, what a privilege to be part of that. Because for too long, Americans with disabilities had been dealing with barriers to jobs, transportation, and even places like theaters, restaurants, and museums. But our council, we worked hard on that first draft of the ADA. And so on a breezy July day in 1990, we gathered with other advocates on the White House lawn to watch President George H.W. Bush to sign the ADA into law. I sat there in my wheelchair, dreaming of all the possibilities for people like me. After the ceremony, our council hosted a reception during which our director, Paul Hearn, wheeled to the front to propose a toast. Paul, a seasoned advocate, had brittle bone disease and used a three-wheeled scooter. And when he turned to face our group, the room fell quiet. And I will never forget his words. He considered his drink for a moment and then said, "This is a wonderful day. This landmark civil rights legislation will open a great door of access to all Americans with disabilities. Discriminatory employment policies will soon be a thing of the past, and it'll mean that qualified people with disabilities will enjoy greater access to good jobs. And this law will also set new standards for constructing buildings. It'll provide greater access to public accommodation. Wheelchair users will no longer have to be carried up the steps of a restaurant. And one day, buses across America will be outfitted with mechanical lifts. There'll be no barriers to public transportation." Paul then took a deep breath and proceeded. But the ADA will not change the heart of the employer. This law will not change the heart of the maitre d' in the restaurant. It will not change the hearts of architects or people in the building industry. And this law will not change the heart of the bus driver. He then lifted his glass and he said, "Here's to changed hearts." And tears overflowed my eyes as I realized that that's what God does. Christians have the message that'll change people's hearts. The government can't do it, neither can federal laws. Only Jesus Christ can transform hearts and attitudes. And it was, for me, a transforming moment, a follower of Jesus who had been called to serve him in the disability community. The Americans with Disabilities Act could only become ingrained in American culture through the process of complaint and compliance. This, it's kind of like a mechanistic process. It forces the transformation of social institutions, but it doesn't necessarily improve attitudes or uproot prejudice or discrimination. Education and disability awareness may raise disability awareness, but even that only goes so far. It does not make a disadvantaged class of persons valued or even celebrated. But Christians, we've got the message that'll change people's hearts. The government can't do it, neither can federal laws. Only Jesus Christ can transform hearts and attitudes. And even so, we can be thankful that over the last decades, many ADA mandates have been accomplished. We have come such a long way since the days when Paul Hearn and I and millions like us had to wheel down back alleys past dumpsters to get into the back doors of restaurants and make our way to our table. But today, I could just roll my wheelchair into a building with ease. My friend who is blind can walk into a museum with her service dog. Children with autism have access to special education programs. There is immense cause for celebration. And I'll tell you what, much remains to be done. Regulations and enforcements provide the impetus for change, but only the gospel of Christ transforms the character of individuals and nations. You know, they say that access is having a ramp to the table, and mainstreaming is having a seat at the table. Inclusion is having a voice at the table. But true embrace, that's being heard at the table. We will only hear and embrace people with disabilities when character is transformed on a personal and on a national level. Ephesians chapter 2, verse 14 declares, "For Christ himself is our peace, who has made us both one and has broken down in his flesh the dividing wall of hostility." I envision a society and a church in which all people with disabilities are truly celebrated, when the dividing wall comes down. And it happens when families that deal with disability are happily celebrated. It's why I encourage you to join Joni and Friends in celebrating the ADA by asking God to work in the heart of your church. Need help in making that happen? Well, Joni and Friends stands ready to assist with resources and training, because we envision a world where every person with a disability finds hope, dignity, and their place in the body of Christ. And who knows, it may well begin in your church.